ده بقى بجد بقى. It's like I'm reading a text.
Yes.
Okay.
On screen and you just answer that.
Okay. For startups, you mean,
Yes.
correct?
For highly feasible opportunities, I might use a technical term, I call it high impact entrepreneurship. Basically, it is very much related to the market size. The larger the market size that you are after, the more feasible and the more attractive the opportunity is. Look at small ideas that started as small opportunities, but it turned out to be big hits simply because it is tackling each and every single individual perhaps on earth. Look at Twitter, look at Facebook, all the social media. They started with very simple ideas that even the creator and the owner of this idea never imagined in his wildest dreams that it would go like that. Twitter last year was sold, I think, to Google or Apple, I'm not sure, but for 18 billion US, and started with a very simple idea just to create tweets and small words. The thing, what made it a big hit is every single person on earth, perhaps except for infants and little kids, is a target customer. From the age of 6 all the way to the age of 77 or 80. So 6 billion people or 7 billion people are my target customer. So basically what makes an opportunity feasible, a big hit or high impact entrepreneurship is the size of the target market that this opportunity is after. Opportunity recognition for startups is a key success factor for any new venture. And believe it or not, opportunities are everywhere. You don't have to be a brainer to discover an opportunity. You just need to have your eyes wide open, feeling the community around you, looking and thinking of things differently and creating different connections between things that other people that are no entrepreneurs, they don't make these connections. Such as what? Like if you noticed as a normal Jeddah person living in Jeddah that there is huge expansion in King Abdullah Economic City up north, for example. For average people, this might not make a lot of things, but for an entrepreneur, there are tons of opportunities up there. It means what? It means there is a lot of jobs to be created, a lot of demand, a lot of needs for young generations, for households, for everyone. So basically, this is how you look at an opportunity or recognize an opportunity. Another thing, every day in the newspaper here in Jeddah and in the kingdom at large, we hear like, okay, we have a big population of young generation, 65% of the Saudi population is below the age of 30 years old and so on. Normal people and average people just take it as is. Entrepreneurs do not. Entrepreneurs discover endless opportunities in that. Like, okay, this young generation, what do they need? They need education. They need fashion and clothes. They need sport. They need healthcare. They need entertainment. These are endless number of opportunities. So the thing is, for an entrepreneur to recognize an opportunity, he or she just needs to live his life and make unregular connections between news and pieces of information that for other people might be normal, but for an entrepreneur, no, it's not. They carry a lot of opportunities. Yeah, that's a $1 million question. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of having an effective team, particularly for a startup. In many of the cases, we put a lot of stress on how large the opportunity is, this high impact entrepreneurship, how feasible it is. All these are good things and are important, but what really makes all this either fly or die is the team. So this basically highlights the importance of having an effective team. How to make it effective is basically it starts from the operational needs. You as a business owner, as a startup, as an entrepreneur, you're the best one that knows what exactly your business needs. Based on those business needs, just write it down on a very simple sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. I'm not telling you to build a sophisticated hiring plan. No, just simple needs. and based on those needs, try to develop them to be what you call job qualifications or job requirements. Then start looking around you in the community, in your network of friends and families and so on, what people really fit into that. If you want to make it more professional, you can go to hiring agencies and so on. So you go up the ladder step by step. But it is important to link the qualifications and the number of the hires that you need for your team as a startup to the operational needs. No more, no less. Again, no more, no less. This is very important. And it's very common in order to have this team not just effective but efficient as well. Efficient, I mean the ultimate utilization of this human resource. It is very important to have the exact number of people to the exact amount of work. For startups, sometimes the work is less than what can really swallow the 9 to 5 working hours, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 5 days a week, yes, 40 hours per week. Sometimes the amount of work you have is less than that. So in this case, you will need multitask people. Someone who is in the startup phase has, he or she has some skills that can fit, let's say, into operations and marketing at the same time, or into finance and admin at the same time. So basically, for the startup period, when the work is not very saturated, you're not benefiting from the entire time, then you are highly recommended to hire people with multitask, wearing more than one single hat. Later on, as your business grows, after the first year or the second year, you might split the job and hire 2 different people for 2 different positions. Okay, these are very, what you call it, back of the envelope, high-level recommendations of how to build the team and the startup team and how to make it efficient and effective as well. Finance for startups is like oxygen to human beings. It's like blood to human beings. Any company, any startup can never survive without having the proper finance. And actually, if you go to a business school, the first thing that you should learn in a finance class is very traditional. Like, okay, there are 2 types of finance: equity finance and debt finance. And many of the business plans are after that. Okay, this is beautiful and it's nice, but in real life, believe it or not, there are tons of other finance mechanisms that can save the entrepreneur a lot and help him or her to keep the maximum equity or not to go into loans. Because if you go for a loan, which is debt finance, it's not for free. You're paying whatever cost, interest. I know interest is not acceptable here in Saudi Arabia, but let's call it the cost of that debt somehow. And on the other hand, if you go for equity finance, then you're giving up part of the ownership of your company. Both of them are not like the best options for the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is very greedy. He or she likes to have it all at no cost. So basically, how to strike this balance, we come up to practical ways, hands-on ways. It's not debt, it's not equity. Basically, it's operational finance. Like what? Let's say you're in the very early startup phase and you're looking for, you need a car, a vehicle, or a piece of equipment for your operations. You don't have to pay all the amount of money up front. You might have it on lease. Let's say you're having a piece of equipment for $500,000 riyal. If you pay it in cash, you paid $500,000. You need this finance. But if you went in lease for 5 years, so perhaps you're paying 10,000 a month or 11,000 a month. So basically, you saved a lot. And instead of needing $500,000 at day one, you might need only a couple of thousand, 20,000. So you saved 480,000 doing the math. And this is not against loan, and this is not against equity. So you have it all, and you have it for very cheap cost. Another example is basically dealing with vendors. Vendors can be success partners. Again, you negotiate with your vendor, not just the price, but the terms of payment as well. So basically, the best deal is not the cheapest deal, but it is the cheapest with the most relaxed terms of payment. So you try to pay the minimum now and to maximize the largest chunk of payment to your vendor after your job is done, after you collected your money from your client or whatever. We call it in accounting terminology the accounts payable. So you try to maximize the accounts payable in your early startup balance sheet. Okay? Of course, this doesn't mean delaying the payment because your reputation in the market will not be good as a startup, but reaching a good, mutually agreeable settlement for the terms of payment that guarantees you the largest period of time. And you can flip-flop the coin and look at the customer side. You can get finance from customers, not just from vendors. How? Let's say it's your lucky day and you're signing your first contract. Ask your customer or negotiate, which is more realistic, with your customer an advance payment, if possible. So this advance payment, if it's 10% or 20% or 30% of your first contract, basically this is direct finance. In this case, if you got this based on the trust between you and your customer, this will save you going for loan or going for equity. So basically, lease terms, vendor finance, customer finance, all these are creative and hands-on operational finance methodologies that will save an entrepreneur the headache of giving up part of her equity to an equity finance or hammering him or her under severe conditions of paying installments and interest rates if they go to debt finance. Equity finance and debt finance are the two most common finance sources for a startup or even for a well-established venture. And technically or financially, to explain the difference between them in plain English, debt finance is as simple as getting a loan to fund your business. This loan doesn't come for free. It comes for a cost. In some countries they call it interest, in other countries they call it different names. However, it is the cost of having this money into your company. This is the first term. The second term is that you become obliged to pay back this loan on specific dates. And these payments are preferred to your operational needs. In other words, if you need the money for your operations and you need the money on the same time to pay the loan, believe it or not, you have to pay the loan. So it's very risky because it could kill the business if you don't have the proper planning of your cash flow. It might kill your business because it might take the loan and pay it to the debtor, the bank or the financial institutions, whereas you need this money to pay your bills, to pay your operations, to pay your salaries. So it is too risky, okay? On the other hand, equity finance, you don't get loans. You just invite a new partner to become with you in that business. And again, it is a good solution, but this partner will not come for free. He or she is eating part of your ownership. So if you ask for 100,000 or $1 million or whatever, against that you don't pay interest, you don't pay installments, but you give up 10% of your ownership, 20%, 50%, again depending on the size of the new company. So these are the two most common financial practices to get fund for startups or for well-established ventures, by the way. It's debt finance, which is in plain English loan, or equity finance, which is basically ownership. In general, debt is cheaper. Equity or ownership is more expensive. However, there's no secret recipe to tell when to use what. This is a very sophisticated decision that needs analysis, perfect analysis, to go for the best way of your financial tool.